narrative of Dodgson's religious life, the influence of his father, the role played by his schooling, his ordination as a deacon, his failure to go on to priest's orders, his first sermons, and so on, but it is also an analysis of his religious thinking, charting his steady journey from his father's high church stance to his own more broad church perspective, alongside a theology that was often rather conservative, even old-fashioned, but that could be quite radical, most clearly in his challenge to the doctrine of eternal punishment. What this delightful study demonstrates is that to tell the story of Dodgson's religion is to tell the story of Dodgson's life. But this is also a story about Victorian England, about how Christianity remained at the heart of the lives of those with whom Dodgson came into contact, in Daresbury, in Croft, at school in Richmond and then Rugby, and of course in Oxford and elsewhere, and all this in spite of the growing forces of secularism in a country that was undergoing dramatic changes. The difficulty, of course, is that while we can all walk with Alice through Wonderland without having to do any prep, understanding Dodgson's religion takes a little more effort. It is not just that Dodgson's frequent references to the Christian Bible will make little sense to a biblically illiterate culture. It is that so much of his religious life is intelligible only to those immersed in the Church of England politics of the Victorian era, alongside the politics of Christ Church, Oxford, and other aspects of an academic life that now appears very old-fashioned. Listeners need not have any concern. At each point, Lovett patiently explains terminology, backgrounds, and contexts, and brings alive a religious and academic culture that goes from being foreign to familiar. And if anyone is in any doubt about the relevance of studying Dodgson's journey, it is worth remembering that at the very time when he was preaching his first sermons, and considering whether or not he should take up priest's orders, he was getting to know Alice Liddell and writing about her adventures in Wonderland. Mark Goodacre, Francis Hill Fox Professor of Religious Studies, Duke University. 1. This child is regenerate. On the 11th of July, 1832, within the stone walls of All Saints' Church, Daresbury, in rural Cheshire, 27-year-old Reverend George Heron held 6-month-old Charles Lutwidge Dodgson, who would write the most famous children's book of his century. Accompanied by members of the Dodgson family, Heron faced the old stone font near the west end of the church. The boy's maternal aunt, Lucy Lutwidge, had, as godmother, taken the vows of baptism in the child's name, along with the child's 2 godfathers. Following the rubric in the Book of Common Prayer, Heron dipped the child in the font's sanctified water, discreetly and warily, saying, "Charles Lutwidge, I baptize thee in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost." The child, who would become Lewis Carroll, had begun his life in the Christian Church. Charles Lutwidge Dodgson's father was another Charles Dodgson, a 32-year-old who had been an ordained priest for 7 years and had served as perpetual curate in the isolated chapelry of Daresbury for 5 years. He would become an important voice in the Church of England and would exert a strong influence over the faith journey of his firstborn son. To follow the journey of the son, one must first journey with the father. Charles Dodgson was born on the 2nd of November 1800 in Hamilton, in what is now South Lanarkshire, Scotland. His father, Charles, a soldier, died in the line of duty when his elder son was 3 and his only other child, Hassard Hume Dodgson, was unborn. Charles's paternal grandfather had been an Anglican bishop in Ireland. On the 14th of January 1811, Charles entered Westminster School, within the precincts of Westminster Abbey in London. In 1813, his brother Hassard joined him. Charles became a King's Scholar, one of 40 foundation scholars in 1814, eventually captaining this group. The King's Scholars produced an annual play in Latin, presented in the school dormitory and attended by alumni and local dignitaries. Charles never acted in the play, but as captain of the King's Scholars he would have composed the prologue in 1817 had the play not been cancelled owing to the death of Princess Charlotte. In 1820, Dodgson's brother Hassard acted in the play. Hassard's son Francis performed in the play in 1852.